our monthly Patriot Investor virtual meetup. If you're here, expecting a Hugh Hefner kind of thing, you're in the wrong place. But I don't think you are. I think you're here for this kind of thing. So our topic tonight is going to be vetting GP operators. Of course, Greg Butcher from BluSky Equity Partners, my partners JJ Hadley, Brett Hadley from BAB Investments. I'm a Marine veteran, as everyone knows at this point, if they didn't already. And I've been doing this since I got into passive investing through the Summer program in 2015, right as I retired from active duty. My second year in 2016, I started sponsoring for the first time. And I have 10 deals as a GP under my belt, plus several more as an LP, but nowhere near the volume that Charles has. I think Charles, 72 deals, he beat all of us put together. So,
okay.
So, JJ, Brett, anything you want to talk about here about yourselves?
Absolutely, just an absolute pleasure. It's phenomenal to do business with two of my favorite people on earth, like two of my brothers. I got a brother in arms with Greg in the Marines, even though he calls me Chair Force. I'll let him get by on that. But got my brother, blood brother. He's an absolute opposite that I am. Like, to just understand the asset management intricately, has overseen like an investor portfolio as far as the actual what he was doing in a civilian career. He was doing it for somebody else. Why not do it for us and build our legacy? And that's exactly what we've done, is just being able to partner up. I bring the more of the business side, the capital raising side, just being able to reach out to those folks, and I just can't be more grateful than the position that we're in today. JJ?
Yeah. JJ Hadley here, the better half of the Badass Brothers. A lot of people think it's Bald and Beautiful, but it's Badass Brothers. But we started real estate in 2019. We actually did our first GP deal, a 60 unit in Fort Worth with Greg. That's how we met him. And we've done another deal in Tucson with them. And we're just looking forward to starting our fund to fund. We're merging our business called Patriot Wealth Venture Group together with all three of us. And so we're looking forward to starting that process together and getting some more deals under our belt.
And we did just want to throw it out there, forget to put an individual that is a very important aspect of our business, Tony Turnwall. She is our executive assistant. She's on here tonight. And if there's anything that you guys need as far as the questions go, please put them in the chat, and she's monitoring that. And so thank you, Tony, for coming on and joining us tonight.
Absolutely. Always appreciate having you here, Tony. Okay, so
thank you guys for letting me join.
Yep.
Absolutely. Okay, so who's here? Members of my BluSky Investor Club and BAB Investor Club members, guests and others, soon to merge into Patriot Investor Club or something like that. We haven't really quite determined how that's going to read yet. So that's in beta. Our mission and purpose in being here tonight and for every edition of the Patriot Investor webinar is on the screen there. We want to focus on education and empowering our nation's veterans, help people who have the impetus to take that leap forward in building financial freedom, and through passive investing or active investing, but through real estate investing. We want to be a part of your journey. We want to help out any way we can. Now getting into our topic, vetting GP operators. And here we go. Brett, I don't know if you wanted to start off talking about that on this slide or what.
Absolutely. And this is probably, Charles, and you can chime in at any time, and other folks as well. If you're asking any questions or whatever, if you have any questions on the specific thing that we're talking about here, the most important thing of these key focus areas that we've experienced, all of us on here, JJ, Greg, myself, we have been LPs, we've been GPs, and here are the things that we look at as some of the most important aspects that we've come across. Because obviously we've done deals with individuals. And that's what we're doing this webinar today for, is to make sure that we provide the things that worked, the best practices, and some of the things that didn't work. And one of the most important things that we wanted to mention here is the track record. As you're going through and you're looking at investing with an operator, you need to find out what is their historical performance. This is like over the course of how many years that they've been investing. What have they done? And have them send that information to you. The experience, like what experience do you have? And we'll go in more in depth on what that looks like with the different aspects of a syndication, the different areas of a syndication, and making sure that your GPs have that experience that is needed in each of those specific areas. Problem solving. When let's just say, no, sorry about my French, but when shit hits the fan, how do they solve it? How's the situation going to unfold when things are not going well, and when they are going well? How is the team connected? And then we got to look at that exit route. Like some of the most critical things is, well, what is where are we going with this after we execute the business plan? What does it look like on exit? And that's what you need to make sure. Have they done full cycle deals? Have that GP team done full cycle deals? And what does that look like? And the financial stability, the ability to continue operations when things are hard, or when interest rates go up. Those are the types of things we need to make sure that the GP team has before you invest in those operators. And I'll leave the floor open right now, because I'm sure I've missed something here. If anyone wants to chime in.
Well, I want to say just a couple quick things on there. One thing about you mentioned the problem solving, and that really comes into play, like you said, when things go wrong, and there are always going to be, not always, but there are going to be occasionally deals where things do go wrong, and you want to know how GPs have handled that in the past. Have they experienced it, or would this potentially be a first time if something does go wrong in a next deal? And if they've experienced it in the past, how did they handle it? Part and parcel of this, we've said problem solving, but really underlying all of this is their integrity and their core values and their willingness to put their investors first. And the phrase I always say is, be willing to take bullets for your investors. Okay, right. A GP's role is to stand between their investors and any chaos that might ensue in every way, shape, or form that they can. So GPs have to be willing to do that. On financial stability, that's actually a part of that, is their ability, their own financial depth, ability and willingness to loan funds into a property if necessary, if that's to avoid a capital call or for whatever the situation might be. If a deal is experiencing some kind of problems. It's no secret that the last 3 years or so have been, really, really troublesome for the entire multifamily industry. And there's been a lot of deals that have hit rocky waters. And I personally had to loan, I think in the neighborhood of $150,000. I don't remember off the top of my head right now, into a few of my properties. And to keep them all going, and they are all still going, and we have not lost one yet, and I don't anticipate losing one right now. Although we're not all out of the woods yet, but those are the things that GPs have to be willing to do.
And that should be questions if you're asking if you're going to be invested as an LP or a GP. If you're going back to what Greg said at the beginning of the meeting here, is if you're vetting a GP, you should be asking those questions as well. What kind of funds they have to put into a deal, because you got to know what their financial stability is, whether you're a GP or an LP.
That's right.
And to be honest with you, if they're not willing to provide that information, I'm probably not going to be putting my funds in their deal. Like that's the bottom line, is that you have to have that transparency and that ability to know, like, and trust the people that you're investing in. Otherwise, I'm not putting my money there.
Exactly. So moving forward to their track record, that's several different aspects of this. Project history, what types of projects have they done before, and this is, and it might be that the particular GP you're talking to, this is their first deal, and there's nothing wrong with that. We all had to start somewhere, but in that case, they should be partnering with people who are more experienced, and so they can rely on those partners' track record. You should be asking about the partners, the entire breadth of the team. Okay, what types of properties have they done before? Has it all been multifamily? Have they been doing other types of commercial real estate? Have they done other residential real estate types of deals? How long have they been doing it? What markets are they invested in? Where do they invest where they live? And that there may be a good reason why not. I don't invest where I live in California because I want to invest where it's landlord friendly. I won't invest here. Sizes of deals, if they just did a 50 unit and now they're going to do a 700 unit property, I would be scratching my head asking why, what makes them qualified to run that size property, and what does their team structure look like to be able to actually accomplish that.
And on Greg's point right there, it's just like you go into a weight room. It's not rocket science. You don't go into a weight room and put 300 pounds on the bench and go ahead and bench that right away. No, you work up to it, and you have slightly progressive movements in order to get to the point where you want to be in the end result, right? And this is no difference, and that's kind of what Greg was talking about there.
Right. So for past projects they've had, if for projects that are still ongoing, you can look at cash on cash return. For full cycle deals, you can look at the total return, the IRR. For deals that have not gone full cycle yet, you can also ask about NOI growth. What have they done with what has the NOI done since they bought the property? When did they buy it? What was the NOI when they bought? Where is the NOI now? And you have to compare that, of course, to market trends. What's been happening during that time period in the market. Crisis periods. Have they managed investment properties during a recession or significant period of turmoil like we've had the last few years? Not having done so is not necessarily a bad thing, but having done so and they're still around and they're still going strong, that means something, and if so, how do they handle the turmoil that happened? What did they actually do? If I ask questions, the deeper questions. If there's anything I want to leave you with, I think, in my opinion, during this whole presentation, it's not to just ask a question one deep. You got to keep on digging in and asking follow-on questions after that and after that. So if you ask about success metrics and maybe someone says, well, yeah, well, we had to stop cash flow distributions on this particular deal. Okay, well, why was that? That's not necessarily a bad thing. It could be a bad thing, but it could be a worse thing if they're continuing cash flow distributions when it is inappropriate to do so, because that puts the deal at risk. And a GP's first job is to protect the investor's capital in the deal. That might mean in certain situations that the most prudent thing to do is to stop distributions for some period of time. So,
and we've actually had several family offices that came in and literally as they're receiving some of the actual monthly and quarterly reports, they're coming back to us and saying, hey, thank you for doing what you guys are doing, because things are not always perfect, and you're gonna have items that you're gonna have to say, hey, I'm stopping distributions and here's why. But being transparent and being able to show them what we're doing and why we're doing it, then they've come back to us and said, thank you for doing that, because we've had several more similar to Charles was talking about. We have several investments that aren't even giving us any kind of reporting. But hey,
right.
Sometimes you got to be very transparent with what we're doing, and that's what we do.
Absolutely. And a note on cash returns too. Everyone has their own primary investing goals. Some people are oriented more towards that cash flow and less on appreciation. Others are oriented more on appreciation and less on cash flow. But in these types of deals overall, the amount of return we get from appreciation is typically quite a bit more than the cash flow is. So you have to understand that sometimes in certain situations, a GP might have to stop or slow down in the cash flow distributions so that to make sure the investment stays viable and move forward. So then they can turn around and be able to go full cycle and give you your principal back and give you a healthy return on the back end.
Right.
Okay, moving on. Track record. When do you guys want to start off with this one?
Most important thing is the upper right hand corner right here. And this is any syndication. There's specific roles that you want to highlight, and you want to be talking to your GP operators, like who found this deal, like what's their experience, the brain and the architect, the people who are doing the underwriting. Probably not going to be the person out there in front and talking about, you know, what's going on. They're probably not going to be that person. Why? Because they're smart. They're putting their efforts inside the actual deal itself and making sure that the underwriting is perfected. And that's exactly what you want them to be doing. And then there's the money side, the capital raising side, the person that's going to out there telling people what you do and why you do it, and being able to explain what it is. And then not only that, like Greg just mentioned, getting your investors. If we have 4,000 people in our CRM, well, those 4,000 people are segregated into tags that have specific needs and goals, and that person is out there making sure that we're aligning our deals with their goals. And that's the most important part of that. And then there's the hammer, the JJs of the world that love to actually get their hands dirty. They're out there doing the asset managing, overseeing the actual third-party property management teams. They're actually understanding what the contractors are putting in and what are they submitting. That's what the asset manager does over all of the assets under a portfolio. So that is important to have an individual that is an expert, and its unique ability is in one of those specific roles. Could it be that there's one person that does two different roles? Yes. But as you grow and your company grows vertically, whether it be horizontally, that individual is probably going to be solely focused on that specific role so that we can actually grow and develop in a very easy and effective way. I'll turn it over to JJ or Greg. You got any additional things to add?
I was just going to say each one of them, like Brent was saying, has its own role. But I believe the most important one is the hammer, the asset management, because you're running the business plan. When you get the property, it's easy. You get that property closed, get the capital raised, get it underwrote. But once they turn it over, you've got 3 to 5 years to run that property and run that entire business plan. That's a lot that can go wrong in that amount of time. And so I believe that you got to ask those questions of the asset management, and the asset management team is when you're vetting them, is asking them the problems that they had, how they overcome it, have they taken a deal to full cycle, the problems and things that they've had inside those deals. That's the kind of questions, like Greg said, you got to be comfortable getting uncomfortable. And so you're going to have to ask those kind of questions because it's important.
Yeah, and a couple of things I'll mention here: responsiveness. You know, you want to be able to get your questions answered in a timely manner, and transparency. That's just a huge one. You know, Brett was just talking a second ago about how he's experienced, deals where GPs didn't even, quit reporting to their investors. That's a huge red flag. That's a huge problem. Doesn't necessarily mean everything's going wrong, but it probably does. And of course, investors are going to assume the worst because you're not telling them anything at all. We believe in over communicating vice under communicating in our investor updates. And when things get rough, that's when GPs need to be communicating more, not less. They can't stick their head in the sand like an ostrich. So number of deals. So, you just have to ask questions about, okay, what are the types of deals they've done before? Were they acquisitions of existing properties, in new development type of deals? Is there a couple of, kind of a different skill sets there? how many full cycle dispositions have they gone to, and just, quantity versus quality. Okay, they should be erring towards quality vice quantity, of course. Both of those, quantity and quality together, is what makes people wealthy, and that's part of why people do this, of course. But it doesn't help if they have a high quantity and they're not putting the diligence into managing the properties, and making sure that they're actually performing well.
Exactly what JJ was talking about there. That quality aspect is the hammer. That person that's going to oversee that business case to make sure that we are returning the actual returns that we promised our investors. And sometimes it doesn't happen that way. Why? Because there's things outside of our control. There's things that we outside our ability to make it happen. But guess what? When you have a good team, we all come together and we'll make it happen. We'll problem solve. We'll find ways, strategic ways to make it happen. And that's the quality aspect of it that Greg was talking about.
Yeah. And then the relevance, of course, they have experience in the market. Does someone on the team have experience in the market? It doesn't have to be the person you're actually talking to, but is there someone on the team who has strong experience in that market, similar asset types? I mean, if you're looking at a brand new Class A building and all they've done is Class C deals, those take very different types of management strategies. So that might not be the best fit. But if they've done deals in that market or someone on their team has in the same neighborhoods, the same property class, that's a pretty strong indication that their experience is relevant for this kind of deal.
And do they have local boots on the ground? That's important when you're trying to, vet a GPs, find out if there's somebody, if something happens, do they have somebody there that can go to the property in an emergency and take care of the situation? It's very important.
Exactly. Okay, handling turbulent deals. And there's a few different reasons that a deal could experience some kind of turbulence. It could be financial, it could be operational. Usually operational is the cause for financial, but not always. Potentially could be legal or compliant, or it could be market interest rate turbulence. When I look at these, I think of operational, especially. That's something that is within the GP's ability to predict and control. And maybe their property management, if they're using a third-party property management company, maybe they're just not performing and they need to be willing to make a switch when it's important to, when it's time to. Or those are the things that are in their control. The market and interest rate turbulence is definitely a lot more outside of GP's control. Not that there isn't some ability to predict it. Of course, with everything that went through the last few years, no one predicted this. If you look at the Fed's reports from just even like the fall of 2021, they weren't even predicting it before they jacked the interest rates up to where they took them to. So I kind of look at that as things inside control and outside control that can cause issues. So things to look at, how frequently have people had bad deals, severity and impact. Okay, have they lost property to the bank? That's bad. Did they just have to stop distributions and maybe they loaned some of their own money into a deal to keep it going and keep it afloat? And what's their prospects for a successful exit still? That's not so bad. Given the market and some things that can happen in a market and what's happened in the last few years, that's actually doing pretty good. What did the sponsors learn from it? How did they handle? How they problem solve? Did they keep on tackling it? Did they keep on fighting, or did they stick their head in the sand and hope it goes away? That's never the answer. Were they willing to take bullets for their investors, like I mentioned before? Did they continue communicating with their investors? What lessons did they learn from what happened that they are taking forward to future properties? Because we should always be lifetime learners in this business. So yeah.
And Greg, I want to mention here what are the most important things that I have really been grateful for is our GP team. We own an asset in DFW, and obviously with the interest rates where they're at, we did everything we possibly could to do what we needed to do. But there are times when you need to figure out how can we save money, and how can we save and help our investors understand that we're doing whatever it takes. And that's what we did as a GP team just recently. We brought everybody together and we did an entire landscaping project on one of our assets in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And just showing, like, and we made it a family ordeal. We had our families there helping out and just making it a really good aspect. And not only that, the tenants were like, wow, you guys are really here. You guys own this asset and you guys are here doing it. You're the owners. And so I just want you to know, sometimes you got to do things outside that normal, operations in order to make stuff happen.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, Brett. That's a great point. At the time we were getting bids for that landscape project that were like $20,000. We couldn't believe it. It was ridiculous. And we were able to fly out there. Well, JJ and I flew out. You live there in the area, and so did Justin and Maggie. And we were able to do it for, I don't know, it was somewhere around $1,500 to $1,800. Isn't that right, JJ?
$1,800.
Yeah. So that's all funds of our investors that we saved. That are staying in the reserves or to be used for other purposes. So, absolutely. Exit strategies. So how many deals have they exited from? Has the team exited from? And that includes a sale, and also refinance. Refinance might not be an exit. We just kind of put it in this category too. It's a capital event, even though it's not quite an exit. But that can be a successful way. A successful part of an exit strategy also is to do a refinance, especially if it's cash out refinance, and give a big chunk of investors capital back to them, and continue operating the deal.
Yep, especially if it was part of their business plan, because if they didn't be able to refinance, they probably didn't execute their business plan to be able to refinance. So that's just a way to monitor it.
Exactly. So, number of exits they have, performance metrics, did they meet their pro forma? And if not, why not? What is, again, ask those deeper questions. It's not just, oh, they didn't meet it. Ask those deeper questions. What was the situation? What were the conditions? Why if they didn't meet it, why they didn't meet it, and also if they far surpassed it, what were the conditions that led to that? That doesn't necessarily mean they're good. Okay, my very first GP property was back in those years 2016, 2017, 18, 19. It was very easy for people to look like they were great operators because the cap rates were compressing. They were getting lower, which means all the property values were going up, and that can make everyone look like a hero, even if they're really just riding the wave. So you have to understand those deeper reasonings behind a property's performance.
Which makes exactly what JJ was talking about right there from the asset management side of the house, like being able to execute the business plan effectively. Those operators that Greg was talking about right there, those were not operators that understood what it took to actually execute a business plan effectively. And those are the ones that are most likely not surviving the turbulence that Greg had mentioned earlier.
Well, everyone has to start somewhere. So, I'm just glad I started in times when it was a rising tide lifts all boats. I'll put it that way. But I do look back on that first deal or two and kind of chuckle at myself at the things I hadn't learned yet and the things that we didn't know. So that goes back to having more experience, someone with more experience on the team.
Absolutely.
So, anything else on this slide, guys?
No.
All right. Okay. So, coming towards a wrap up here, Is this a good point to Charles to ask you if there's anything that you want to chime in from your experience?
I have a few comments. I just didn't want to steal your thunder.
Go ahead.
No such thing.
Please go
No
ahead.
such thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
When I get into one, I'm a lot more emotional, and I don't mean I'm crying and weeping or anything, but I'm a little touchy-feely about wanting to understand, know, and be very familiar with the leads. And sometimes you can do that, but I have on a couple of occasions put my money in with somebody, and then it later turned out that he wasn't the big dog on the deal. I do like to know who the big dog is, because if you get in with somebody else who's just raising money and it doesn't quite go right, you might get a lot of finger pointing about it's him, that's, and so and so and so and so. So know who they are. It doesn't mean that you have to only find the big dog, but you should at least know who they are.
Amen.
I have been in deals where the reports were coming out monthly, and then they declared, well, we're going to do them quarterly. That really ticked me off. And but one of my next comments is there's not a whole lot you can do after the deal starts. You're sort of married to that person, and you can't really divorce. Well, it's rare that you can divorce them. You sort of have to wait till the thing sells, and then I guess that's getting an annulment or something. But you're sort of stuck with the thing. No matter what they do, you're on board with that, with what's going on for quite some time. And on that thought, my 2 cents is, if you're going to try and get into this, don't put money that you need. I saw an email recently on one of the deals that's not going well, and I saw 2 emails. One was, that was our house money, and we didn't buy in a couple of years. And I'm thinking that was probably a poor choice of putting your house money into one of these deals, because they don't always win. Usually, so far, my experience is they do, but sometimes the tide changes on you, so don't do that. Another one was, that was our life savings, and I'm thinking that's not a good idea. So these two people clearly should not have been in it and did not read a lot about it and probably didn't understand it. So learn how the thing works. Don't put your last dollar into these things, as I call it. Don't put your eating money in, put your play money in. So let's see, there's that. Other people who are GPs, I am not a fan of celebrity GPs. If you get in a deal and Grant Cardone is on there somehow just because they want to use his name, it might not be the best choice. I'm not a fan of Grant either, but that's beside the point. He's the only person I can think of to say without getting myself in too much trouble in my home.
Well, that usually means the Grant Cardones of the world aren't usually the ones that are actually operating the property. So
Yeah, that's what I mean. That celebrity guy, you're paying him, but he ain't doing anything.
Yep. Yes,
It's
sir.
like the endorsement on those shoes or whatever else product that you're getting. Oh well. Anyway, but let's see. And then there's fixed versus float. You mentioned that there's financial issues that can happen. The fix to that is have a fixed loan. So that was one of the big problems. But it's a big mechanic, and I'll be happy to expound on that, but it takes a few minutes to sort of put the whole story together. I understand why people went to float. I'm not upset about it, but if you're not ready for it, avoid the floats, so to speak. Let's see. People will push for putting in their IRA money, or I don't know if you can do, I guess you could do solo 401k money.
You can.
If it is a traditional account, I am not a big fan. If you'll notice the gray hair, that means the money comes out as earned income later on, which will cause you heartburn. But if that's all you got and you really want to do this stuff, try and figure out how to do it as best you can. But I will say that both Roth and traditional IRAs do suffer from something called UDFI, which means you will get to pay a little bit tax inside that account when you sell, depending on some things. So 401ks beat IRAs on that particular piece of the puzzle.
Absolutely.
If you're an infinite banking person, I think you're crazy, so I wouldn't do it, but some people do. It's a strange thing. So don't get suckered into some of the glitz and the glamour on these schemes that go on. I mean, the real estate itself has been wonderful for me, but there's often people buzzing around trying to get their hand in your pocket. So there's that. Oh, and I don't do LinkedIn. So if you really want something, I'll send you my email. And if you're ever wanting to ask me something, I do answer questions quite often. Although I do go on vacation a lot too. So not while I'm.
Amen.
Nice.
I can't
No,
think
we
of anything
appreciate
else.
that, Charles. That'd be fantastic if you could offer that to people
Yeah,
who see this. Yeah.
I talk to all sorts of people, just realize I am not really an expert that these people think I am. It is,
You've only done 70 deals.
yeah, I know, but and my rate up until, the thing started getting bad, I was doing about a 24 point, I'll call it a half. I don't remember the real number, 24% IRR on the deals that I put in. Oh,
Look at
that's
that.
another thing. You put IRR in there. How many people actually know what an IRR is? And I do, and I have asked many people, and I know coaches that can't really explain it. So, don't get tied up with that until you're a business manager and you understand that. But it is, in my opinion, probably the best way to post-mortem the deals and see how well they did and how well your account's really doing. But, it is a confusing calculation that does befuddle many people. Let's see. Learn their underwriting skills. People
Right.
come out with different ones. I happen to be in the Sumrock group. Most people there use the Sumrock underwriting, and so I know exactly where to look, and it makes it very easy for me to be lazy and just look in the right places on that form and see if I am happy with how they did their underwriting. But if you're going to just take random people that are using different underwriting techniques, you're going to have to do a lot more effort on the math to see what they're doing. And I have seen deals that were just completely crazy. I could go into a story on that. If you want a story, I have all sorts of stories too, but I don't want to waste your time.
No, that's what we're here for. Those are the ones that you actually learn the most from, Charles.
All right, some guy called me up because I am mathematical and I try to study this stuff. I am nerdy. I'll go that. I'm not much fun, but I'm nerdy. Not much fun at parties, but I am nerdy. Anyway, he called me up and says, "Hey, I got this great deal, and I don't want you to steal it from me. So just I wanted to talk about it." I said, "Look, send me the damn thing. I promise I'm not going to steal it from you because, well, I'm just not." So he sent me the underwriting and I went through it, and I believe there were like 15 ways the guy was trying to cheat him. And it was a sort of involved story about he was getting this underwriting from somebody, but they weren't really the owner. And, it was a really circular type story. So, avoid that. But he was trying to buy this thing. And the one that really comes to mind is they had a 99-year mortgage on this thing. They don't make a 99-year mortgage. And if you understand mortgages, that means the payment would be much less than it should have been. So that made it look like you could actually make some money. But that was not the case if you actually went through all the numbers. So just be careful. Call him the broker, call him the seller. His underwriting is not going to be your friend. And then I guess having been in 40 something deals have gone full cycle, there's only a handful that have gone through with no problems whatsoever. And it might be a hand that only has a couple of fingers on it. So it matter of fact, it might be a birdie finger, but be that as it may, most deals will have something in there and you get just a twinge of buyer's remorse occasionally during the things, but they've tended to work out fine, but there will be problems. And, if you're a terribly nervous type, take some antacid and figure out how to put through this thing. But, there will be problems along the deal, and, most problems are solvable. I've had a couple that were not very solvable, but it does turn out to be fun. First deal I was on, we had to fire the manager, the GP, because he and I phrase it as he lost focus because it didn't make anything else make sense to say. But I was in deal A with him, which was our first deal, and then about 3 or 4 deals later, I was in the second deal that he did. And on the we fired him off our deal, and the other guys called me up and says, "Hey, come be our consultant on how to fire him here too." But we had this big meeting. He could not quite state how many apartments were available, and he said, "Well, we're having this big meeting, but I'm going to go walk the apartments. The meeting was on Saturday. I'm going to walk them on Monday." And I'm thinking, well, that's pretty darn dumb. What the hell have you been doing if you didn't walk them before this meeting? It turned out after we tossed the guy out, he had not done the occupancy deals, the OAs, I guess they're called, AOs, whatever, the authorization of occupancy, AOs or something. Anyway, so we were starting to lease apartments and we didn't have the legal right to do it from the city. And that
Certificate of
caused us some
occupancy, yeah.
consternation. So, you know, there are just plenty of things that can go wrong, but we had gotten a new manager and, you know, he fixed it all, but you know, things were touch and go for quite some time on those. I don't know. Those are good.
Yep, well, that goes back to having someone on the team with experience, you know.
That's
Well,
right.
If there's someone
those
that
two
is
were
just
back in the
experienced.
day when it was one guy, one apartment, you know, so
Yeah, yeah.
things have changed because things have gotten so much more expensive. And well, it's just, you know, things change. And I've done many deals with new people and they tend to do better than some of the more experienced ones occasionally if they have a great relationship with their mentor. On the other hand, I've had one guy that I'm a little upset with, and he can't figure out how to sell a deal we've got down in Texas, West Texas. And it's just like really frustrating because we could actually make some money right now, and he just can't figure to get his butt in gear and do anything. So, you know, there's bad ones and good ones, and I can't say I've picked them all good, but most of them have been pretty good.
Nice.
So, Charles, this begs the question, because obviously we're going to have people watching this webinar after the fact as well. Can you tell us, on top of your list of things that are the most important on vetting a GP operator, what are the top things in your opinion?
I'm looking for integrity because, you know, first of all, you don't want a crook in there. And then I'm looking for some financial acumen because you don't want an idiot in there. And, you know, someone who can stand the pain of telling you when something goes wrong. Because I would rather know when something goes wrong than have him hide it. So you need to have
Right.
someone who's, I guess their ego's in check. So
Great.
those are three things that I look for. There's a huge list. I don't really make a list per se, which is why I say I'm sort of emotional. But you know, I look for red flags. If there's a red flags, I'm out. But if I don't really run into red flags after I'm getting to know the guy, I'm gonna look at the deals as he has come through. And it depends then if do I have money and does he doing something that isn't really stupid? You know, I've seen some deals that I don't want to be in because they're dumb. I've seen deals that are just fine and I've jumped into them and some I didn't have any money to jump into them. So
Awesome. Thanks for your input, Charles.
Absolutely, really appreciate that, Charles. Okay, wrapping up, Brett, you want to hit this one?
Yeah, some of the things that we as a team make sure that we are continuously learning, developing, growing, as you said, Charles, always finding mastermind groups, mentors to make sure that, hey, we're not missing something that we should be seeing. Folks that understand the markets, the financial side of the house. We're attending these webinars. You guys, everybody on this webinar and the folks that are going to be watching it after the fact, we want to congratulate you all. Like, because this is the first step. Like, you got to start listening and reading books out there, podcasts, listening to Michael Blanc, listening to the Raise Masters, and whatever the case may be, always learning and always being able to reach out to those folks that have experience of things that you may not have and have been in the world of 30 years or 70 deals like Charles. Like, that's where you want to be floating, and that's where you want you to be surrounded by people who are going to pull you up rather than pull you down. And that's why we wanted this slide, because every one of these organizations that we're a part of has been extremely beneficial for us. And not only that, to be able to alleviate some of those blind spots that we may not have thought about. And they would look at a deal, they would help us analyze, help us underwrite those deals, and make sure that we're making the right decisions for our investor group and those, you know, investing their hard-earned money in us. That's why we wanted to have this slide. Over.
Yeah, and did you say over again, Brett?
The military thing.
I'm always giving him crap for saying, like, it's just the damn radio. Come on, man. No, but that just interrupted me, my train of thought when you said that. That cracked me up.
Yeah.
But I was gonna say about how, you know, GPs can't just be the type of people who are gonna, you know, once they get some kind of success, they still have properties under the belt. They're just kicking back in the hammock, drinking a pina colada on the beach. You know, they have to be continually sharpening their sword and learning more about this business, this industry, and surrounding themselves by people who are doing the same, who they can learn from and in turn inform themselves. So that's the philosophy we always take to this business, and that's how we do it. So moving on.
I know we're running up against time right now, but we definitely want to leave it up to you guys' questions. If you have any questions and you don't want to come off of mute and you want to type them in, let us know, because we've got Tony right here to help us out as well.
But likewise, feel free to unmute yourself and ask away too.
Absolutely. Is there anything?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mr. Chang. You're good.
So, any advice for beginner GP operators? I know obviously, experience is a big thing. As far as vetting them, how inexperienced is too inexperienced? Let's say we have one partner that does have experience, and then the rest are beginners. Is that necessarily a turnoff? Maybe we have experience in single family, but not multifamily, and residential, vice commercial. How could we tailor that to make it more, I guess, attractive?
Well, you'll have to have someone with some degree of competence and experience just to get the loan for the deal. So if that person is just signing loan docs and is not actually taking part in running the deal, then that could be a problem. If that person is actually contributing to managing the property, then that might give people a much better feeling on that. Preferably there's one or two people on there, but then again, it depends on the size of the deal. Like Charles was saying a minute ago, when I was first starting to get into this, a large deal was like $6-7 million, and they all had 80% loan to value. So we weren't actually, it was common for someone to take a deal down by themselves or with one other person. Now we have the opposite. We have, these much more expensive deals with lower loan to value. So we're having to raise a lot more capital for deals, and we have these large GP teams. So it goes back to, is it one experienced person with a whole bunch of people, or is it just one or two? Are there other experienced people you can bring onto the team in some way, shape, or form? Is that experienced person taking an active role? You need someone who's experienced to take an active role in the deal. So those are the thoughts that pop into my head on that.
Got it. Appreciate it, Greg.
Absolutely.
I'd like to pipe in on that active role thing. I can think of two teams that I've worked with, and they had the same experienced person. And he was, I'm going to say laid back, because I don't want to call it nastier. But he took an inactive role completely after we got the loan, and he was completely useless from what I could tell, and stayed that way. So, figure out who it is, try and, see your friends. I don't know if you're in a big group of people or whatever, but do some research on the actual leads, because sometimes you'll be disappointed.
And like Charles was saying, you got to know what leads are doing what. So
Yeah.
if his role is just to sign on the loan and then he's out, you got to know that. Or is he actually going to be part of the asset management team, overseeing you guys? Do they have enough time to help train you guys with you not doing your first deal? Does he have the time, or does he have other deals? How much time is he going to be able to spend on this deal? So that's what you got to look at.
And is he a vacation king?
Right.
So, sorry, personal feeling there.
Well,
That's a great point.
Yeah, got it. That's very insightful, because we were looking at kind of like hiring him in a sort, just for that sole purpose. But obviously that kind of brings something into perspective.
Absolutely.
I don't recommend doing that. I would
Yeah.
recommend bringing somebody that like, and trust, that's ability to provide mentorship, provide that experience, the blind spots that you would never see. In our first deal, we brought Greg on board for that specific reason, and we cannot be more grateful, because he had already done 6 deals, 7 deals, whatever the case may be. He had done several of these deals, and there's just things that you don't see that you wouldn't see if you were a newbie. And that's what's awesome about bringing somebody on board that has been there, done that, and is willing to come on and be a part of your team. So I wouldn't recommend hiring, but that's just my recommendation.
Got it. Thank you.
Any other questions?
I have one question, Greg. Just the book or the person you said, Michael Bogg. Is that
Blank.
correct?
Oh,
The
Brett said
reference?
Michael Blanc.
Michael Blanc,
Blanc.
Blank. Yep, yes, sir. And I highly recommend his podcast for sure.
Thank you.
He's another one of the multifamily syndication gurus. Like, you know, there's a whole handful of them out there. So
Think multifamily. You've got the Sumrock. You've got all these others that are doing the similar thing. But Michael Blanc is aligned with the values that we're talking about today. That's why
Gotcha.
I would recommend him.
I'm tracking.
Good question.
what else? Who else has a question?
Jonathan Keith, you got any questions?
No question, but thank you for the content. It's been very beneficial.
Absolutely.
I especially appreciate Charles' input as an LP, a professional LP.
Amen.
That's cereal. Thank you very much.
I thought he'd be on the beach.
Cereal and milk? I don't even like that stuff.
I'm too light. I burn, so the beach is not my thing. I might go up to a mountain somewhere and take the
All
cool
right.
air.
Come to Wyoming, damn it.
Yeah.
Well, next month we are going to do it on underwriting. So Charles was talking about the in and outs of
Yeah.
underwriting and knowing the underwriting. That's what our next topic will be. You guys want to sign up for that? It'll be on Wednesday, September 25th. Welcome.
Oh man, maybe Charles wants to just teach it.
I
everybody.
understand it, but I don't do it because I'm lazy. I don't buy the deals. I let somebody else buy the deals. I just look at their underwriting and research it a bit and then invest.
And I want to be you one day, Charles, damn it.
People say that, but why in the hell would you want to give up a few years, get some gray hair, and become old looking? You know, it's not worth it.
We love you, man.
I think Keith,
Hey,
you
gentlemen.
got something to say?
Yes, sir. How y'all doing?
Hey, how you doing, Keith?
Awesome. I'm doing good. Hey, I was USMC infantry 05 to 09.
Fantastic.
Nice.
Ready to build some wealth. So as far as my question pertains to like building the team, I have 2 people that I've recruited already who are way smarter than me. They're creative geniuses. They're super interested in doing this. They're definitely the guys, but they don't have any experience. I don't have any experience. The most real estate experience I have, I've built 197 homes for a production builder. And that's where I saw the investing side. I was like, whoa, these people are making way more money than me. Anyways, my question is, where's the best place to look for that experienced, GP?
Experienced
Where do you
GP to invest with, or an experienced GP to actually do a deal with the GP?
To actually do a deal.
Well, you're doing it, Keith.
Yep.
Conferences, webinars, anytime you can get yourself in swimming in the ponds of others. That's exactly how we do it, and we start to build relationships with those individuals. We start to learn about their families. We start to hang out with them, and then sooner or later, that's how it's all come together. Is that you're willing and able to do a deal with them because they know, like, and trust you. It takes time.
Where do you
Understood.
live?
I get it. Thank you.
Keith, where do you live?
I'm in Austin, Texas.
Oh, hell, there's several meetups down there. You can attend those monthly.
Yeah.
There's several
Okay.
groups and they all meet monthly that I know of. So
Right.
hang out with those guys, or you can pay the big bucks and get an actual coach, or just go to his cheaper meetings. But by and large, if you're doing it on the cheap, all those meetups will get you there. Ultimately, a coach will help you with speed, and if you have a lot of money to invest. But it's not rocket science per se. But it is nice to have a coach that is willing to help you through the deals. But if you're going to meet somebody and try and talk them into being a deal with you, go to those meetups.
Amen.
Yeah, it's no secret. You just gotta be in the right rooms, whether those are physical rooms or virtual rooms.
Yep. Meetups,
Awesome. Thank you,
conferences.
guys. I'll take that advice. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, man.
And definitely anybody that's on this call, feel free to reach out to us and talk through some of the things that you're thinking about, like some of the conferences that we attend. And we are more than willing to share that information with you. So jump on our calendar and get some time with us and spend some time with us talking about specifics of that as well, Keith.
And that's what those QR codes there are on the screen too, by the way, is to our calendar appointment links. So the BluSky one for myself and BAB for Brett and JJ for the time being until we have everything all merged in. But also the perspective for next month's meetup on basics of multifamily underwriting is going to be just the basics and what passive investors should be looking for, the basics of how it works and what passive investors should be looking for. So, Charles, like you said, you didn't like to do it. That would be right up your alley. So, really appreciate you being here and being part of this. It was unplanned on our part, but it was really valuable, and we really want to thank you for being part of it.
What'd you say your next one is? The 20 what?
Wednesday, September 25th. We're going to try to do the last Wednesday of each month.
Oh, don't tell me you're up in the mountains out there fly fishing.
Well,
Italy or something.
you know, I'm older, and young people do this thing called a cleanse where they do some lemonade and crap in it. I'm afraid I have the geriatric cleanse coming up right after that. So I will be in and out and available momentarily and not momentarily, if you see my point. And anybody with gray hair will know exactly what I mean. Anybody without is going to go, what the hell's he talking about?
What about those with no hair?
Well, yeah, okay, Brett. Well, you work in the medical industry, so I think you'd understand. But,
all right.
Hey, it was good seeing everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight and spending this evening with us. It's absolutely been a pleasure.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks a lot.
Absolutely. Thanks for everyone being here tonight.
Really appreciate the resources. God bless you guys.
Yep. Thanks.
All right.
God bless.
Thank you much.
See you later.
Thanks, everyone.
Are you gonna stop it from your end, or here we go?
Okay.
And make sure you stop the recording. Or Tony does.